Hello, Slicey Dicers. This is Brian with another knife review for you today. We have the Tangram Progression designed by Dirk Pinkerton. Little collaboration between them. It's nice to see Tangram getting into the collaborations. This is a subsidiary slash side company of Kizer. So it's built to a lot of Kizer's sort of standards, more like similar to their Vanguard line as far as fit and finish goes, but a little bit cheaper materials. All made out of China. And unfortunately, you can only mostly get them on Amazon right now. You can get them on eBay, but they're usually overpriced a bit. This is a $42 knife on Amazon. We will get to, in the end, why that was very difficult for me. I had to jump through some hoops to get this knife. We're going to save that for the conclusions. I don't want to ruin everything right up front, because this is a really great knife. Just a really well-designed user knife. And I really like it, so I don't want to bury it in the beginning with how hard it was to get my hands on one living in the great state of New York. So, through Amazon. It's Amazon's fault, not New York's. Spoiler. Anywho, we'll get to that at the end. This is a very cool knife. Tangram does a great job. This is the second Tangram that I've had. I've also had this Tangram Santa Fe, which I like a lot, and I carry a whole lot. Also, I think this is like a $30 knife, even cheaper than the Progression is. They just do such a great job. The quality is really good. They are all using Japanese Akuto 440 steel. It's not the hardest steel in the world, but it's not bad at all. I've had really good luck with this. It holds an edge plenty long enough to satisfy me, and it's super easy to sharpen and no corrosion whatsoever. No problem with the steel they use on it. And also, it comes in this really cool box. This is so cool. I don't show packaging usually anymore unless it's exceptional, and this is exceptional. Got the little slide-off cover thing. You got this nice kind of, everything feels kind of Japanese about it, or I guess it's Chinese, but Japanese. All these, everything Kizer related is made in China. You got your little origami project there you can take apart and fold out if you want to. Comes nestled in this nice little thing. You get a cleaning cloth and a little card and all that stuff and warranty information. Very, very cool. I have to say, their packaging is top notch. I mean, if this was a $500 knife, I would still be impressed with the packaging on it. It's just really cool. And for 30 to 40 some bucks, that's pretty amazing. Let's get into some specs before we get too much farther. Talk about the real nitty and gritty about this thing. You have an overall length, again, these are 1/2 inch squares, overall length of just under 8 inches, blade length of 3.45 inches, very nice thin slicey blade, 0.11 inches, and a weight of just a skosh under 4 ounces. And one measurement I forgot to take here, so we'll do it live. We're going to do it live. You have a handle thickness of 0.48 inches, we'll call that. So about what you average for your kind of EDC style knife. Let's do some size comparisons to give you an idea of the size of this thing. First of all, let's compare it to the Ontario Rat Model 1. We're going to mostly stick to stuff that's kind of in its price range. The Rat Model 1 is a little bit larger than that. We already showed the Santa Fe. This is your steel wheel Modus. Almost exactly the same size as a Modus. And your Sierra KT Voss, since I have that back now. So yeah, about a very similar size to the Voss also. And for consistency's sake, we will do your Spyderco Delica. Quite a bit larger than a Delica, as you can see. And last but certainly not least, your Spyderco Paramilitary 2. Really not that much smaller than a PM2. Just a little bit smaller than a PM2. Blade length, when you line up the pivots, yeah, it's just a little bit shorter in blade length, but usable length, it's probably maybe even a bit more. All right, let's talk about the actual down to what it matters about this knife. One of my favorite things about it is honestly the blade. The Akuto 440 steel is fine. I don't think it's like mind-blowingly great, but it's more than adequate for this price range. I've actually been pretty impressed with it. As I said, I put a lot of miles on the Santa Fe, and it's held up really well. I've been pretty happy with it. What I love most about this blade isn't the steel, it's the blade shape. This is only, I measured it down to 0.18 thousandths behind the edge. So it's very, very, very thin behind the edge. And it's a nice hollow grind that goes very tall. This thing slices like a champ. It is an awesome slicing knife. I had to break down a whole bunch of cardboard boxes because I'm going on a trip and the recycling room was getting a bit full. And, you know, this is a $42 knife. I didn't mind if I beat it up, so I just went and hacked at some boxes. And it worked outstandingly well at that. I had to touch it up when I was done, but we're talking like an hour and a half of cutting up boxes. And all I had to do was strop it a little bit. I probably didn't even need to do that, but I did it anyway. Came very sharp out of the box. Came very good. The sharpening was excellent. It has an excellent sharpening choil. I love just this kind of very simple sort of, drop point blade shape. It's great. The tip is not particularly robust because this is a thin, slicey blade. That's something you sacrifice for it being so slicey. For like if you're doing heavy duty piercing stuff, it is not the most robust tip in the world. But it's not crazy different than, like it's just the same as like a Delica or something like that. It's not like ridiculously thin, like a little thin, classy gentleman's knife. But it's not super thin at the tip, or super thick at the tip. It's pretty thin. But it worked great for everything I needed it to do. I love the blade on this knife. I really, really do. And it's a knife. That's the most important thing, right? Is the blade. I also like the ergonomics. As I said, I was hacking at cardboard with it for a solid hour and a half, and it did not fatigue my hands in any way whatsoever. It's super grippy. It is G10. It's got these little cutouts in it. I think those might be a bit aggressive. We'll get to that in the end. But when you're holding on to it, it does grip extremely well. It does have some really good, pretty aggressive jimping up top here, which works really well. You can move your thumb up closer for detail work, which I did quite a bit, trying to cut up smaller boxes and stuff. And it worked really, really well. Yeah, ergonomically, I was quite happy with it. The only thing that design-wise that I didn't like about this knife is carry-wise. These little ridges are awesome for grip. They work fantastically well. Not so much for the carrying. I don't mind how it doesn't have a deep carry clip, but not that much of it sticks out. And what's going to stick up is either brown or black. This also comes in a black. The black's actually a bit more common, I think. But I don't mind that so much on kind of a worker bee sort of knife. But these little ridges that are so great for grip suck putting it in your pocket. Pulling it out, it's fine, but going in, it really is. Like say this line here is my pocket line. It goes net going into your pocket. It's just I don't know if the tension of the clip is too high, whatever. I could probably bend that a little bit. I'll probably try that because I am gonna keep this knife. I do like it a lot. But yeah, but other than that, it carries pretty well. Not too hard to get in and out of your pocket. The flipper tab doesn't have any jimping whatsoever. It doesn't need it because it flips so well. So you have nothing catching your pinky or anything as you go by. And as I said, pulling it out is fine. It's just that putting it in your pocket. That's a bit annoying. I think that is partly due to the right hand, left hand up hand, up. Yep, tip up, tip down, carry positioning. If they stuck to one side, they could make the side with the clip smoother. But, good on them for making it ambidextrous. I get it. But I would almost rather it was just right hand only. Tip up, tip down, and this side, like, part of this was, like, this part was smooth. Because the G10 itself isn't, like, pants-rippingly grippy. It's just these little ridges here that cause the issue. Now, in deployment, no issues whatsoever. This thing deploys great. It pops out amazingly. Runs on ball bearings. It is very fall shutty. I have not done anything with this other than just use it a bunch. And, yep, works great. Rockets out every time. Detent is outstanding. Very good job on the detent. Very good balance between, being hard to open and actually being able to rock it out every time. For $42, that is some pretty amazing action on this. I really do like it. That kind of blew me away. as it did with the Santa Fe. The Santa Fe is exactly the same way. The Santa Fe is not a flipper, it's a thumb stud, but yeah, the Santa Fe also just rockets right out. These Tangrams, man, they got the detent down. They're doing a very good job. They're doing a very good job with a lot of stuff, but the detent they have on these Tangrams, if you don't have a lot of money and you just want something that's fun to fiddle with, get a Tangram. That said, this leads us to the conclusions. That said, if you live in a state where you can easily get them from Amazon, here's the problem that I had that I alluded to earlier. I live in the great state of New York. Flipper knives are completely legal in New York. You can own a flipper tab knife in New York. It's completely fine. You can't own one in New York City, but you can own one in New York State. The problem is, one of the ways that Kaiser has cut corners with this, and I've talked to Tangram and I've talked to Amazon, and I think I've got the story all put together between the two of them. I went to go order this. They said no, that it was illegal in my city. It is not. It is not illegal in my city. I said, no, it isn't. Send them the laws. They said, Amazon said, yes, it is. I said, no, it isn't. I'm on one of these chat things. And I was up at 1 o'clock in the morning watching Formula One racing, and they had no idea they were dealing with a guy who had nothing better to do. And I argued with Amazon for over an hour on the chat thing. They wouldn't budge. Get a hold of Tangram. Say, hey, you might want to get in touch with these guys. They're not selling your knives in New York State because they say they're illegal, and they're not. Now, Tangram, to their credit, replied to me by email very quickly. Like, every time I emailed them, I had an email back within 3, 4, 5 hours trying to explain their side of it. They went through Amazon. They went through all that. Amazon would not budge. So the two states I know for sure that you cannot order this knife, only because it has a flipper tab, is New York and Massachusetts. What Amazon has done is they have taken their laws for the most restrictive cities, which are Boston and New York. And they have Boston and Massachusetts, New York City and New York, obviously. And they have cherry-picked some of the laws and decided to apply them statewide. It's ridiculous. I went on there just to see, after this debacle where I couldn't get this knife, I went on to see I could totally order a Manix 2 XL from Spyderco. I just tried to pick a big knife that was barely legal in my state. Perfectly fine. Could order one of those. But because this has a flipper tab, Amazon has just decreed that it's illegal in New York and Massachusetts. And it is not. Tangram agrees with me. They looked at the laws. They don't think it's illegal either. Tangram's working with Amazon, but Amazon's not budging. So that's the real downside to this knife, is just the avenues that you can get it through. Now, talking to Tangram, they're only available on Amazon because that's part of what Kaiser's trying to do with this company. And as I said, it's kind of murky as whether or not this is an actual level of Kaiser. It does say by Kaiser on the packaging and all that stuff, but or if it's like a side company, it's kind of odd. But they're only selling them through Amazon to keep the prices down. That's part of the reason, part of the ways that they get this at such a good price. And I get that, but depending on your state, and please in the comments below, if you were considering one of these and you watched this review and you couldn't get it, we're going to add a list to the stuff. I mean, I tried to order a Kershaw Dividend. I got one here just out of curiosity from Amazon, and same thing. I can't order a Kershaw Dividend anymore either because of the flipper. So it's not Tangram's fault. It is 100% Amazon's fault. I always try and buy knives from actual knife retailers. I only get stuff on Amazon if I have to. But unfortunately, in this case, in the Tangrams, you have to. Unless you want to pay too much on eBay. That's really your only other choice. So what I did is I had this shipped to a friend who shipped it to me. And that's what I did, because it is absolutely perfectly legal in my state. I've checked multiple times. It's ridiculous. So that is by far the biggest downside of this knife, is that depending on what state you live in, you might have a problem getting it, and you have to deal with Amazon. There's only one avenue to get them. So that is by far the biggest downside of this knife. That and the net going in the pocket. Other than that, it's a great worker knife, and I am glad I jumped through the hoops to get it. This is definitely a keeper. This is definitely one I will grab when I really have to do some stuff, and because it's $42, and if I damage one, I don't care about it because I can get another one eventually when I call one of my friends and have them send it to me. But yeah, it's a really great design. Tangram continues to knock stuff out of the park. Tangram did say in their last communication to me they are going to continue to keep on Amazon and try and get this fixed, because they realize that, you know, Massachusetts and New York are, and again, this is the only two that I know of. There's probably more states. So in those populous states in the country, you don't want to lock them out. So they are working on it to try and get the issue fixed, but hopefully it's a temporary issue. But other than the issues I had acquiring it and some issues getting it into my pocket, wow, what a really good knife for 42 bucks. This is a really good worker bee knife that also has fun action to play with. And that's a really good combination for me. You know, when you're doing stuff and you just want to sit for a minute and take a rest and eat a sandwich and have a beverage, and you can still have something to fiddle with. So that's really cool. Great knife. Great job by Tangram. Terrible job by Amazon. That is my conclusion for this review. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I've been Brian. Have a good one.